Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today? She's smiling better today. I was going to have her hold the camera. But again, we're starting this, taking the journey with us. This is another walk this summertime.
One of our walk talks.
I'm R,
Sharing.
and we had a talk before. We had a couple of people who listened to our talk and like what we said. Don't pay attention to the truck that went by. So we're going to take you along with us as we take this talk, take this journey together. And we're talking about relationship kind of things. Today we want to talk about how do you feel important? How do you feel precious in a relationship? In a
And
way where you don't feel so more important about you and only concerned about you that you forget about the other. In other words, the other person is responsible on their own to be able to find that out for themselves. Or on the other side, you're so concerned about making sure that the other person, mate in your relationship, is happy, feeling good, and feeling precious. Then you leave yourself out
not to mention,
completely. Go
not to
ahead, Sharon.
mention the children. When you have children,
Oh wow, they take
they
everything.
children are like vampires. You love them to death, but they're like vampires. They take all your energy. They take all your value. You become so and so's mom or so and so's dad. You no longer have an identity by yourself.
Especially these days, I have said to Sharon more than once, like with our children, it seems like we taught them that we can be unconditionally loving to them, but it's at the expense of them being what? Very conditionally
Conditionally.
loving, period. And they grow up to expect you as a parent to always be unconditionally loving to them, but at the expense of they don't really feel that they have to give that back in return.
Yeah. So there's so many ways in which we set ourselves up. A lot of it having to do with society and society's norms and expectations to not have us feel important or even feel guilty when we put ourselves first. And that was one of the things we were talking about is how certain religions and communities will do that to you as a part of the learning process.
Yeah, well, I think too there is some. I just read on the internet not too long this sister who's a psychologist, a counselor, a metaphysics kind of person, and she strongly pushes the idea that you are the only one responsible for your happiness. So she says intimacy without responsibility, meaning your intimacy of feeling important and precious is your responsibility, and in the other person in your relationship, you are not responsible for them whatsoever to gain that same thing. They're kind of like on your own in a relationship. What do you think about that, Sharon?
Um, to a certain extent, I can agree with that.
What's up, man?
Good morning. To a certain extent, I can agree with that. Um, because if a person is deep down unhappy, not always can you make them happy because sometimes they're comfortable in that unhappiness. And no matter what you do, you just spin your wheels trying to solve a problem that they need to solve
You
themselves.
talking about that misery love company thing?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But in addition to that, but on the other side of that, I don't agree with it because sometimes that giving is going out of your way to make sure somebody is happy. Not to say that you do it all the time at your expense, but sometimes if you can find a common ground. Say, for example, you're you're feeling down, and I know that you like music and jazz, and I happen to see that there's a jazz concert going on someplace later on. I make it a point that we go to the jazz concert. I like jazz, you like jazz, we'll both enjoy it, but that'll uplift you in the process.
See, I like that what you just said because I think that has a lot to do with giving a great example of balance. I believe very strongly that spirituality is a balance, not just good, bad, devil, or God. I believe that spirituality is finding a balance because we're all not perfect one side or the other anyway. So I think you gave a good example, and that balance really comes out in a relationship to be a compromise. I think a lot of relationships, what happen is people do a lot more capitulation. When one person is making you do something more than what you even feel happy about doing at all,
which
but
cut
you're doing it anyway.
which cuts down on your feeling of being valued. If you're
Thank
not
you.
listened to, or even sometimes you don't even have to listen to somebody. Just give them the perception that you're listening to them, and
Exactly.
and and that will give them
Okay, I'm gonna
value.
give you the perception right now. I'm listening to you, but I'm not. No, I'm just joking.
Exactly.
I'm just joking. Hey, don't you guys take that seriously? But anyway, go ahead.
But see, because you said that and said it that way, indicated that you were in fact paying attention.
Oh, whoa, she's gonna do what they say, flip the script on me. That's how that sister does. But anyway, I do understand that. I still want to find out, how do we get individuals in the relationship, because we were talking about before we got the camera on, where we could start feeling precious, where we can start feeling important, whether we have a child or we don't have children, but we know in our relationship we are just not feeling that way. We ourselves are not feeling that, hey, I'm precious, I'm important, and therefore, because I don't feel I'm precious, I'm important, I'm not really about trying to in turn do something for my own self. And in turn, that other person might feel, well, hey, if you do something for your own self like I'm doing, you're being self-centered because I'm so used to you doing things my way, only for me. And that's how it's supposed to be in a relationship. I used to have that old saying that in some of our relationships, I'm not saying all, but some of our relationships where the sisters would say, hey, you do my thing, and then you may do your thing, and that's how we get along. Or basically, you do my thing, and I do my thing, and then maybe we can get along in the relationship. And that's a one-way type of relationship. What you think?
I agree with that, but that goes both ways also, because
Hmm.
sometimes women get into marriages and they get so caught up in, I've got to provide for my husband, I got to provide for my children, I've got to, do all these things to make everybody else happy, and they lose themselves. They get nothing that they really want. They put their dreams aside, they put their hopes aside. And again, just like you said, not everybody, but sometimes that happens and it becomes a point of becoming bitter. It
Hmm.
sets up it sets up bitterness, it sets up angst, it sets up anger. Um, and at some point in time, that is going to blast off. I'm sorry, did they just stop this black man from walking down the street wearing
Yeah, or we're going to
glasses?
stop up there when we get a chance and keep this video or tape on to see what's going on. I will give the camera to you so you get a chance to videotape and find out what's going on. Why did they stop him from that end? So we definitely would do that. So back to what we were saying. Um, the everyday grind with kids, job, family, especially. How do you really deal with it? Because sometimes with family, think about it. Sometimes with family, especially as black families, not necessarily for mine because I didn't come from down south and I'm up north, but with a black family, sometimes the idea is my family comes first.
Yeah.
Your husband or wife comes second. And that's how it should be. And if in turn you even act like that other spouse is more important, then you get booted out of the family, or you get demonized, or the impression is that man or the woman is trying to control you, having more direct influence than what they're supposed to. What you think about that?
Yeah, that happens a lot. um, I have and it's not just a
Tell the truth
southern.
and shame the devil.
No, no, it's not just a southern way of life,
Mm-hmm.
because even before I moved down here,
Uh-huh.
I would hear a lot about that happening in Caucasian relationships.
Uh-huh.
I hate my mother-in-law. I hate my,
I
you
hold my
know,
arm like this kind of tight.
my
Go ahead.
this, that, and the other.
Uh-huh.
Those were things that I was saying. I'm like, for real? How do you
Uh-oh.
do that?
Oh, go ahead. Still recording.
I said, how do you actually do that when you um are if you love the person you're with, how can you not love the person who caused them to be on this earth? How can you hate your in-laws when without them you wouldn't have, a spouse? But a lot of that comes down to that self-centered thinking, where um we look at family members as belonging to us.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
we own them. We
yeah.
own that children. We own that person. Now, of course, those on the other side would say, well, that husband and the wife figure like they own you. Well, if we're going to talk about ownership in this particular case, there could be a pecking order in ownership if we want to talk about. Certainly, my wife and me own each other first. If we're talking about a pecking order of priorities of ownership,
Mhm.
you guys may not agree with that. But yeah, that's how it is. Why? We spent the investment, the time, the effort, the pain, the cursing, everything you can
And
think
and
of
and
to make this happen. We're
and
not
we're
talking about the marriage agreement too at the same time. Does that even count? I don't know
and
about today if that even
and
counts.
and we're
To death do we
building.
part? Yeah, whatever. But go ahead.
And we're building something. We're building something that is unique to us, something that is desired by us, something that is agreed upon between us. The other people within the extended family um, are not a part of that. They're not a part of that agreement. And so lifestyle differences may be different. Lifestyle may be different from what you grew up with
Hmm.
or what your family's um, um, norms were, but that's because you are an individual also. And as an individual, you connect with another individual to make a unit. And you bring into that what you believe in. And just because you were growing up in a certain household does not mean that you believed everything that was going on in that household. It meant that you were the child and you had to go along with it.
Yeah,
Oops.
yeah. I think that the family concept that's done, especially down south, seems stronger than up north, is good when you're starting off with your first network of people to in turn connect with. But there's a whole world out there of other folks that are part of the human race that you have a right to interface with, to interconnect with, to love, and make them your family too.
Yeah.
And it don't necessarily mean that your blood family in turn is always going to be a family to you. People always say blood is thicker than water. Well, I hate to tell you this. There's more water out there than there is blood. I'm just saying that way.
Well,
Listen.
when you take into consideration water is one of the main components of blood.
Yeah.
So, water is the connecting point in all of us. And so when you take that into consideration or you look at that as a reality, it comes back to what we were talking about in the first place. Is it more about the family connection or is it more about making the people who you come in contact with happy, even if that means you only make them happy by swallowing your pride and your angst for 15 minutes.
Okay, okay, Sharon. Talking about going on, my arm is about killing me.
Okay.
You're gonna carry the camera next time,
Okay,
or
well,
we're gonna
you know
find
what,
a selfie,
we
a
need
stick,
we need to
and
find
and,
that
and,
selfie
and we don't
stick.
want to keep on going on anyway. We want
Yeah,
to make it a certain amount of time.
yeah.
We're about 13 minutes, so we can
Okay,
probably make these 15 minutes from now on.
yeah.
Hey, make sure you say something and like us, or put a post on some questions that you want to ask, or some questions for us. I'll put it back on my website, excuse me, my Facebook profile, Craig Butts. Of course, on Facebook itself. But until we see you again, don't make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you think of yourself as being precious. And there's no way are we saying that family is no longer important whatsoever.
No.
But it's the priority wise, and in turn, families need to understand that at the same time too. Don't you think?
I absolutely agree. We
Okay.
all need to feel important.
All right. Till next time. God bless. Ashe. Amen.
Take care.
All that other good stuff.